Hello there, it's midnight and you're watching Nightline with me, Anita Wu. These are your headlines. Discussions to reopen international borders still in progress. And Health Ministry announces the end of 2 more COVID-19 clusters. We begin with our headlining story. Malaysia is still not opening its international borders to foreign tourists and workers, as discussions with countries categorised as green zones are still ongoing. Senior Minister for Security, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, said in the talks, Malaysia has stressed on obtaining reciprocity to allow Malaysians to enter the countries concerned. He said that the matter is being discussed by the Foreign Ministry on the advice of the Health Ministry, as some countries which were earlier in green zones have returned to red again. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri also said that the Health Ministry had identified 6 COVID-19 green zone countries for conditional reopening of international borders, namely Singapore, Brunei, New Zealand, Japan, Australia and South Korea. He, however, said 4 categories of exemptions for foreigners to enter the country in compliance with the standard operating procedures are still the same, and they are diplomats, EP1 category expatriates, Malaysia My Second Home participants and students resuming their studies. Meanwhile, a total of 96 people were arrested on Saturday for participating in prohibited bar and nightclub activities during the Recovery Movement Control Order (RMCO) period. Datuk Seri Ismail said the 96 were part of 165 individuals detained in total for failing to observe the standard operating procedures and RMCO guidelines. Of the total, 14 individuals were remanded, while the remaining 151 were issued compounds. Police also detained a foreigner for immigration offences. Apart from that, he also announced 19 construction sites were ordered to close yesterday for not complying with the SOP, while 495 sites were given warnings. More than 61,000 checks were carried out on Saturday on supermarkets, restaurants, hawkers, factories, banks and government offices. Datuk Seri Ismail also revealed that 1 out of 771 Malaysians returning via the Kuala Lumpur International Airport, KLIA and KLIA-2 on Saturday was tested positive for COVID-19 and sent to the hospital. The remaining 770 people who tested negative were ordered to undergo home quarantine. He said the returnees recorded on Saturday were from Singapore, Indonesia, United Arab Emirates, Taiwan, Thailand, Qatar, Australia and South Korea. He added that for the period of June 10th up to July 4th, the Health Ministry had conducted screening on 11,049 individuals at KLIA checkpoints. Datuk Seri Ismail also said that police had conducted 803 monitoring visits for standard operating procedure SOP compliance on home quarantine and found all had complied with the stipulated SOP. The Health Ministry on Sunday announced the end of 2 more COVID-19 clusters that were previously detected in residential areas, namely the Gombak and Pangsapuri Cheras clusters. The Gombak cluster was first reported on May 18th following active case detection measures at a residential quarter in Gombak. From the Gombak cluster, a total of 200 individuals were screened as of July 4th, with 5 positive cases detected. All were Malaysians. As for the Cheras apartment cluster, which was first detected on June 1st after active case detection, a total of 144 individuals were screened up to July 4th, with 8 testing positive for COVID-19. All but 1 were Malaysian. In a statement, Health Director General Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah also announced 5 new cases of COVID-19 on Sunday, of which 3 were imported. 2 of the imported cases involved Malaysians and 1 involved an individual with permanent resident status. There have also been 4 recoveries in the last 24 hours and no new deaths. The Health Ministry MOH is ready to assist counsellors in each school nationwide to provide counselling services to students or even their parents who may be suffering from psychosocial fear amid the COVID-19 pandemic, as the schooling session is set for full reopening soon. Its Minister, Datuk Seri Dr. Adham Baba, said there are 148 counsellors at health clinics nationwide to provide their services.
Proses yang penting dalam persekolahan ialah bagaimana faktor psychosocial iaitu ataupun psychosocial fear yang berlaku dapat diatasi, dan pihak sekolah perlu mengadakan sesi kaunseling kepada mereka yang dikatakan curiga ataupun tidak yakin dengan apa yang dilaksanakan. Jadi dengan kaedah tersebut, saya yakin semua pihak akan berasa lega dan dapat melaksanakan tanggungjawab yang baik.
The counselling service will also enable students and parents to adapt and adjust to the new normal in schools. On July 1st, Senior Minister of Education Dr. Muhammad Razi Jidin announced that students nationwide will return to class in stages starting July 15th. The schools will be fully reopened by July 22nd after 3 months of closure due to the pandemic. Following the relaxation of social distancing rules for commercial flights by the government, all airlines must carry out adjustments to airfare prices. Transport Minister Datuk Seri Dr. U.A.E. said the government realises that it cannot be done straight away, but he hopes that it could be lowered to a more reasonable price level that will not burden consumers.
Ya, kita memang nak meminta syarikat penerbangan turun kepada paras yang paling rendah. Tapi dalam keadaan sekarang, kita dah minta supaya syarikat penerbangan tidak mengenakan kerugian tu. Kita tak minta pelanggan untuk menanggung kerugian dia semasa COVID. Itu yang kita nak buat. Dan saya difahamkan macam kes MAB, mereka hanya gunakan 25% sebagai menampung kos pengoperasian sahaja. Bermaksud mereka pun tidak untung dalam keadaan sekarang.
He added that the decision to allow flights to run at full capacity was made after taking into consideration international standards and guidelines by the International Air Transport Association, IATA. This includes body temperature and health screenings, as well as wearing face masks, aside from the steps that need to be taken by flight crew before departure and upon arrival. The Malaysian Aviation Commission, MAVCOM, also had been asked to monitor any related matters concerning the resumption of air travel. The minister said this when met at Sri Pentas Bandar Utama in Petaling Jaya before appearing as a guest on 8TV's Mandarin News. Media Prima Berhad Chairman Datuk Syed Hussein Al-Junid was also present to welcome the minister before the interview. The Sabah government is looking at the possibility of reopening its doors for the arrival of international tourists by September 1st this year. Deputy Chief Minister Datuk Christina Liu said this would be done by monitoring the current COVID-19 pandemic situation and is also based on advice from the Health Ministry while subscribing to the SOP. Datuk Liu is also State Tourism, Culture and Environment Minister, said agencies under her ministry, especially the Sabah Tourism Board, STB, has always kept abreast with information regarding the matter from other countries. She said the government was reopening its tourism sector by allowing operation of the night market at Gaya Street. Mount Kinabalu has also been reopened since May 16th, and it has attracted about 2,000 climbers so far. Meanwhile, in the state's move to allow the arrivals of tourists from China, Datuk Liu said a meeting would be held with China's Consulate General in Kota Kinabalu, Liang Kaide, next week. She said not all areas in China were affected by COVID-19, and the meeting would discuss, among others, how to speed up the arrival of tourists from those areas. Taman Tasik Titiwangsa was reopened to the public since Saturday after it was closed for over a month since May 28th by the Kuala Lumpur City Hall DBKL due to a large crowd presence in the park during the Conditional Movement Control Order. While some restrictions have been lifted since then, several limitations were still in place for visitors to curb the spread of COVID-19. However, it seems that some people were unable to contain their excitement of being able to enjoy the outdoors again and ignored the safety protocols in line with the new normal. As early as 8 a.m, hundreds of people from all walks of life were seen present all around the park to exercise as well as for leisure activities. However, this has become a cause for concern as some were seen ignoring SOPs meant to prevent the transmission of the virus among the public.
Aktiviti yang dibuka ni baguslah. Aktiviti yang dijalankan baguslah, kita dapat beredah kan. Kita pun dah lama terkurung je kat rumah. Semalam pun baru buka. Saya tengok okeylah. Tapi cuma penjarakan tu masih tak ni lagi dah. Pasal kalau kita tengok sekarang pun dia bawa anak-anak kecil-kecil.
Some of the new guidelines include limiting admission hours at the park from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily. Visitors were also required to use their smartphones to scan the QR code using the MySejahtera or KL Step mobile application at all the park's entrances. Sadly, this simple step had been disregarded by some of the visitors who simply walked into the park without paying attention to such notices. In fact, DBKL has highlighted that activities in large groups, such as picnics, gatherings for celebrations or group sports, were not allowed for now, but this was still ignored by certain people there.
Datang sini nak buat apa?
Kita orang kita jogging, lepas tu piknik. Piknik je.
Bukan piknik tak boleh kat tempat tasik?
Ya. Sebab kita family.
Family. Tapi kan memang berkelah tak boleh.
Siapa ni jawab?
Also noticeable were the number of visitors who did not put on face masks and did not maintain the 1 meter social distancing rule. Despite it being understandable that wearing face masks while running or doing physical exercise can be dangerous as it would restrict our breathing, there are still ways for the health-conscious visitors to keep fit safely. For our own safety as well as others, we should always practice self-discipline by adhering to the safety measures to protect ourselves from the pandemic. Also, if the SOP compliance at Taman Tasik Titiwangsa remains unsatisfactory, authorities warned that they may again close down the park and others like it indefinitely, which will deprive all city folks of some much-needed space for outdoor activities. A group of 7 opposition MPs on Sunday issued a joint statement objecting to the Perikatan Nasional Government's proposed motion to remove Dewan Rakyat Speaker Tan Sri Muhammad Arif Mat Yusof along with his deputy Nga Khaw Ming. In a statement signed by the 7 opposition members, they explained that both Tan Sri Muhammad Arif and Nga had done their duties professionally and stressed that there was no solid basis for removing them. The 7 MPs also pointed out that Tan Sri Muhammad Arif had been instrumental in parliamentary reforms, including the formation of 6 parliamentary committees, namely the Budget, Major Public Appointment, Rights and Gender Equality, Defence and Home Affairs, Consideration of Bills, as well as all-party parliamentary groups. The statement was signed by Fahmi Fazil of PKR, Datuk Hasanuddin Muhammad Yunus of Amanah, Alice Lau Kiong Yeng of DAP, Dr. Mazli Malik from Bersatu, Datuk Liu Viu Kiong from Varisan, Wilfred Madius Tangau of UBCO and Barubian of PSB. Tan Sri Muhammad Arif was appointed Dewan Rakyat Speaker by the Pakatan Harapan PH coalition when it came to power in 2018. Last week, he had confirmed to the media that Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin was seeking to replace him. Final remaining bodies of Bachok boat tragedy found near Pulau Perhentian. The details when we return. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Still on Nightline. 3 traffic policemen from the Sri Alam District Police Headquarters in Johor have been arrested for allegedly extorting money from a lorry driver. Johor Police Chief Dato' Ayub Khan Maidin Piche said that the trio demanded for 4,000 ringgit from the victim after he was stopped for driving an overloaded lorry.
Mereka ditangkap ketika mereka menahan sebuah lori yang membawa muatan lebih, tuan. So mereka adalah sejumlah wang yang banyak juga yang diminta kepada pemandu ini. So apabila pemandu ini membuat report, tuan, so pada kebiasaannya mungkin kita hanya menyerahkan kepada JIP, Jabatan Integriti dan Pembentukan Standard untuk siasat. Tapi saya tak, tuan. Saya minta OCCI saya buka bawah kesalahan pemerasan. Saya katakan
The trio, aged 32 to 39, were arrested on June 4th. He said the case was being investigated under Section 384 of the Penal Code for extortion, which carries up to 10 years jail or fine or whipping, or any of the two upon conviction. The bodies of the two remaining victims from the capsized boat incident in Bacok, Kelantan on Monday have been recovered near Pulau Perhentian, Terengganu. Kelantan Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency (MMEA) said following the recovery of the two remains, the search and recovery SAR operation involving 81 personnel has officially ended. The seventh victim was found by fishermen about 32.7 nautical miles north of the island at about 10:30 a.m. Sunday. Authorities said the body is believed to be of 44-year-old Cik Wadi Bakar, the boat skipper, and was brought to the SAR Operations Centre at the Kuala Kemasin fishing jetty at about noon. A DNA test will be conducted to confirm the victim's identity, as the family could only recognise the clothes the victim was wearing, while the body's physical appearance had changed. The last remains were discovered at 2:20 p.m. and was confirmed to be the body of 43-year-old Arman Ismail, who was identified by his sister. Both remains were then taken to the Raja Perempuan Zainab II Hospital in Kota Baru for post-mortem. In the 8 p.m. incident, a boat carrying 20 anglers, including the skipper, capsized after it was hit by big waves in a storm. Only 12 of those on board the vessel survived. Police put a stop to a drug-fueled party in Jalan Klang Lama and rounded up 21 people, including 9 locals. Officials said police raided a rented condominium unit at around 1:30 a.m. on Saturday and found 10 men and 11 women of various nationalities, aged between 20 and 39. Early investigations revealed that the party host got the venue for free from a man he found on a dating app, and guests were invited via WhatsApp. The guests were also slapped with a compound of 1,000 ringgit each for flouting the recovery MCO. A total of 8 cars were destroyed in a fire which occurred at a vehicle repair shop in Jelutong, Pulau Pinang. Initial investigations revealed that a small explosion occurred just before the incident, which was believed to happen due to oil residue. No fatalities were reported. Still to come on Nightline, COVID-19 cases rise in Saudi Arabia following lifting of curfews. Do stay with us. Welcome back onto the foreign front. Saudi Arabia's COVID-19 infections have passed 200,000 and neighbouring United Arab Emirates 50,000, with the number of new cases climbing after the Arab world's 2 largest economies fully lifted curfews last month. Restrictions have been in place in both countries since mid-March, and their gradual lifting has allowed commercial businesses and public venues to reopen. Saudi Arabia, which is the highest count among the 6 Gulf states, reported more than 4,100 cases on Friday and on Saturday to take its total to 205,929 with 1,858 deaths. The daily tally first rose above 4,000 in mid-June but had dipped recently. The U.A.E, where daily infection rates recently dropped to between 300 and 400 from a peak of some 900 in late May, registered more than 600 cases on Friday and over 700 on Saturday, taking its toll to 50,857 with 321 deaths. Dubai, the region's business and tourism hub, is due to reopen to foreign visitors on July 7th, although this has not been implemented at a federal level in the U.A.E. Other Gulf countries have also moved to ease restrictions, although Kuwait has maintained a partial curfew and Qatar, Bahrain and Oman did not impose one at all. Singapore reported 18 community cases out of the 136 new infections registered on Sunday, a huge increase from the week before, which recorded an average of only 6 community cases per day. Out of the new community cases, 6 are Singaporeans or permanent residents, while 12 are work pass holders. 5 of them were close contacts of earlier cases and had already been placed on quarantine. In addition, there are 7 imported cases, all of whom had been placed on a stay-home notice upon arriving in the country. Singapore's tally of COVID-19 cases is now at 44,800. Indonesia announced that 82 people died of COVID-19 on Sunday, the highest reported death toll in a day so far since the outbreak in the country started, bringing the official death toll up to 3,171. East Java remains the province with the highest number of COVID-19 deaths, with 1,020 deaths, far surpassing second-place Jakarta, which has recorded 649 deaths. With 63,749 confirmed COVID-19 cases and a total of 3,171 deaths as of Sunday, Indonesia remains the country with the highest number of COVID-19 cases and the highest death toll in Southeast Asia. Now let's have a look at the highlights in Malaysia's main newspapers awaiting you Monday, July 6th. The New Straits Times features an article on the recovery of the construction sector thanks to stimulus packages and economic activities. Malaysia's best-selling Malay newspaper Harian Metro highlights the achievement of a mathematics teacher who had to sit his mathematics paper 18 times to test his own teaching formula, while a report on the need for long-term strategy for food security takes the front page of the Malaysian Reserve. Do get your copies today or subscribe to the e-paper. Now, from the tender age of 6, vintage car collector Omar Al-Saadi of Ramallah had fallen in love with cars. Today, at age 50, his passion for vintage vehicles is still very much alive. For him, the cars are more than just prized vehicles. They're also a way to remember and honour the past. Let's have a look at his collection of 28 vintage cars, mostly British and German makes, dating back to 1945, as we wrap up Nightline this time around. With that, I'm Anita Wu. Thank you for watching and be well.